the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strive, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing
Candace Owens didn't stay silent. She went on air and said what everyone else was afraid to say. She pointed out the detail that made everyone rewind the video. Why did Mikey McCoy leave the frame before Charlie fell?
When Candace Owens finally spoke, the internet stopped scrolling. Her words were calm, deliberate, and devastating. For months, she'd said nothing about the rumors, the whispers about Erika Kirk and Turning Point USA. But this time, she didn't hold back. And what she revealed changed everything. In the fast-paced world of conservative media, silence is rare. And when someone as outspoken as Candace Owens goes quiet, people start asking questions. For months, speculation had been building online, cryptic posts, unfollows, and whispers about a rift between Candace Owens and Erika Kirk, the wife of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Both women had been icons of conservative culture, strong, articulate, faith-driven, and constantly in the public eye. They represented a powerful image of unity, strength, and shared conviction. But somewhere along the way, that image began to crack. To understand this story, we have to go back a few years. Candace Owens had become one of the most recognizable faces in conservative politics, bold, articulate, and unapologetically confident. Through speeches, debates, and her show, she built a massive following of supporters who saw her as the fearless voice of truth. Erika Kirk, meanwhile, embodied grace and faith. A philanthropist, entrepreneur, and public speaker, she often spoke about Christian values, marriage, and family life. As the wife of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, Erika was deeply connected to one of the most influential conservative organizations in America. For a while, the two seemed inseparable, appearing together at events, tagging each other on social media, sharing quotes about faith and strength. Their friendship represented what many saw as the heart of the conservative women's movement: unity, belief, and boldness. But in 2024, subtle signs of change began to appear. No joint appearances, no friendly shoutouts, and soon after, the telltale social media unfollow. In an age where online gestures speak volumes, that one click fueled an internet wildfire. When people noticed the unfollow, the theories began almost instantly. Had there been an argument, a disagreement over faith, a professional falling out? Turning Point USA or TPUSA had already been under a microscope after internal controversies and leadership questions following Charlie Kirk's sudden passing. A tragedy that left Erika as both a widow and a public figure carrying her husband's legacy. Behind the scenes, whispers began spreading of differences in direction, conflicts over image, and tension over how faith was being used in political branding. Candace, always known for her sharp sense of integrity, reportedly wanted to separate her name from what she saw as growing performative Christianity, where image mattered more than authenticity. But at that point, she hadn't said a word publicly, and the silence only made people more curious. It wasn't until early 2025 that Candace finally addressed the situation, not through a social media rant or a public feud, but through her podcast. Her tone was calm, thoughtful, but unmistakably cutting. She didn't mention Erika Kirk by name. She didn't attack Turning Point USA directly, but her words were precise, and her meaning was crystal clear. Too many people are using faith as a performance, she said. Too many influencers are preaching values they don't live by, and too many organizations are confusing branding with belief. It wasn't a confession, it was a warning. For her listeners, especially those who'd followed the rumors, there was no doubt who she was referring to. Candace Owens had just broken her silence within hours. The internet was on fire. Clips of the podcast spread across TikTok, X, and YouTube. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Supporters praised Candace for speaking out, for defending authenticity and exposing hypocrisy within the conservative influencer world. Critics accused her of stirring drama and dividing a movement already fragile after Charlie Kirk's passing. Hashtags like #CandaceOwens, #Erika Kirk, and #TPUSA rumors began trending. Creators posted side-by-side clips analyzing body language, comparing old interviews, and dissecting every detail. And then, something interesting happened. Erika Kirk stayed silent. As the controversy grew, many expected Erika to respond, maybe through a podcast, a post, or even a quiet interview, but she said nothing. Instead, her social media feed filled with messages about forgiveness, grace, and trusting God's plan. To some, that looked like peace. To others, it felt like a calculated form of control, choosing silence as strategy. But for the audience watching from the outside, the contrast between the two women couldn't have been clearer. Candace, fiery, outspoken, unwilling to pretend. Erika, calm, polished, and distant. Their silence and speech created two opposing narratives, both powerful, both believable, both incomplete. At the center of this storm was TPUSA itself. Turning Point USA had been one of the most influential conservative youth organizations in America, a platform that turned political messaging into social media moments. Candace had long been connected to the movement, but as her independence grew, so did her distance. Behind closed doors, insiders claimed there had been growing disagreements over transparency, leadership, and the organization's public image. Candace reportedly questioned where the money was going and whether the mission had shifted from faith-based values to brand building. She wasn't the only one who felt uneasy, but she was the only one willing to say it out loud. Her podcast episode wasn't just about Erika Kirk, it was about the broader system she represented, and that's what made it so powerful. Adding fuel to the fire was a clip that had resurfaced. Erika Kirk publicly thanking Mikey McCoy, Charlie's former chief of staff, during a memorial event, calling him amazing. At first, it seemed harmless, but in the age of online speculation, nothing is ever that simple. Fans began analyzing her tone, her choice of words, her body language. Some claimed it was genuine gratitude, others believed it was oddly misplaced, even unsettling. When paired with Candace's remarks about performative faith and moral inconsistency, the internet began connecting dots that may or may not have been there. It didn't matter if the conclusions were fair. The story had already taken on a life of its own. What made Candace's statement so impactful wasn't the drama, it was the message beneath it. She wasn't attacking one person. She was exposing a pattern she saw repeating within modern conservative spaces. To her, politics and faith had become performance, a branding exercise wrapped in moral language. She wanted to remind people that truth should never need PR. Her words landed hard because they came from someone who'd been on the inside, who knew how powerful image could be and how easy it was for authenticity to get lost in the spotlight. Meanwhile, Erika Kirk's refusal to respond became its own form of communication. Her silence was either dignity or defense. Depending on who you asked, she was either gracefully avoiding drama or carefully protecting her image. Weeks passed. No direct statement, no mention of Candace, but her posts grew softer, less political, more spiritual. It felt like an intentional rebranding, one that kept her above the noise while letting others fight the battles she didn't want to name. Sometimes, silence speaks the loudest, and in this case, that silence kept the mystery alive. By the middle of 2025, the feud had quietly reshaped the conservative media landscape. Candace had pulled back from anything connected to TPUSA. She focused on her own platforms, creating independently and speaking more freely than ever. Her message? Integrity first, image second. Erika, on the other hand, continued to appear at faith-based events, maintaining her influence within the movement while carefully avoiding controversy. TPUSA itself continued to thrive, but the tension between its public image and internal relationships was clear. The days of perfect unity were gone, and even though no one said it out loud, everyone knew something fundamental had changed. In the end, this story isn't just about Candace Owens or Erika Kirk. It's about how influence, faith, and image collide in the age of digital politics. It's about the cost of authenticity in a world built on branding. Candace Owens broke her silence, not to gossip, but to send a message that truth doesn't need permission to exist. And whether you agree with her or not, she forced an uncomfortable question. How much of what we see online is genuine, and how much is just performance? Maybe Erika's silence is her way of protecting peace. Maybe Candace's outspokenness is her way of reclaiming honesty. Or maybe both are just doing what they've always done best, standing their ground in very different ways. In the end, one spoke through words, the other through silence, and both, in their own way, changed the conversation. This has been Candace Owens Breaks, Silence on Erika Kirk and TPUSA Rumors, a story of friendship, faith, and the fine line between conviction and control. Because sometimes silence is strategy, and sometimes breaking it is the only way to tell the truth. If you found this video insightful and want to stay updated on the latest stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you think about the events, the rumors, and Candace Owens' Take Your Opinions help complete the story.